Thank you so much, Steffi, and thank you all very much for being here today. And it's incredibly exciting to be here with Maya and Vasilis. Steffi talked about the importance of friendship, and it's an incredible friendship with Maya and Vasilis for such a long time, because it is almost 20 years ago that Maya, actually 18 years ago to be exact, kind of organized a first gathering of the core group to think about a future art center. And as Steffi described so beautifully in the introduction, this project has become an amazing reality, a reality which basically produces reality, not only exhibitions. And that's why we thought it would be very interesting today to discuss actually the vision of Luma. And in the background you will have many images throughout the talk to give you an idea about this very, very complex campus, this very multi-layer campus. And what is so exciting is that everything in a way is a testing of prototypes. That was Maya's initial idea actually for the talk today, and we thought it's super fascinating to discuss today how actually new ideas are tested again and again on the Luma campus. The Luma AL project is not a continent. As Edouard Glissant, who was an inspiration from the very beginning, said, it's an archipelago, and we will hear today from Maya and Vasilis about the many different dimensions of the many different islands of this archipelago of Luma AL. But before starting, we should all give another very warm welcome to Maya and Vasilis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hans.
And I think Maya is going to begin by outlining a bit the vision, and then we'll have a conversation.
Yeah. Hello. I actually wanted to speak about friendship, but now I feel a little redundant. To start with, I'm very happy to be here again. Loyalty is something that I consider very important. It's actually also what creates sustainability. And so this is already a big step to be able to join a community several times not in a life, but in a period of time. Now, I am particularly happy to be here today with Hans-Ulrich and with Vasilis, because also probably because I'm quite tired from many trips from the summer, and the backbone that this gives to be working together is something just amazing. And I think this will give us the strength to go all the way with these projects that I really visualize every time like reality. So very often we speak about utopia, and this is why projects can be just interrupted all of a sudden. But in reality, this visualization and this projection in the future is important. So I'm not here to philosophize. I don't know. Yeah, I wanted to start here. You see maybe the map behind. This is the region where Luma is located. This shows you immediately that Luma is a research center in a region and not what it's been called a museum. I mean, it's not a big deal. It can be called a museum. It's not the end of the world. But this is not the usual definition for a museum.
Absolutely.
So we do actually, and today we are going to talk about this, we create prototypes, we reinvent products that come directly out of our environment. We reuse, but yes, we don't only reuse, we just use things that have never been used. Vasilis will enter into I can do it later if you want, but this can only happen because of the creative view and the artistic program that is set in place, and because we invite artists in residence, writers, also thinkers, and we started this project with a think tank that brought many voices. Some of you, I don't think you are the same people than 7 years ago, but I had presented twice here the project, so we decided today to do it more like a dialogue, and even more so like questions from Hans-Ulrich as a moderator to Vasilis and to I. Vasilis is the artistic director, but he's in charge of programmation too, and I'm very happy to be able to work with Hans-Ulrich sometimes when he is around and on his archive, and with Vasilis a lot when I am around, because he does really the follow-up and the ideas. So what did you want to know, Hans?
Yeah, thank you so much for this great introduction. Yeah. And in a way, I think the idea of an institution. We spoke about that so often, initially with the car group and recently also, of course, with Tom Eccles, who has to be mentioned, about this idea that Luma is a research laboratory that really defines new ways of working. It's an ecosystem, and from the very beginning, ecology played a very important role because it's, of course, embedded in a region of wetlands, which your father actually, Maya, really saved, one can say, environmentally. And from the beginning, it was this idea of the environment and of it being a laboratory in this environment. So maybe we could talk more about that, no?
Yeah, well, so what's important is the day we merged artistic and creative programs and creative thinking into the world of environment. When we introduced design thinking as well as invention, but our background is really artistic. So I don't know, for me it made sense immediately. For some people it needs a lot of explanations. But let's go maybe directly to the Atelier Luma, or what would you...
Yeah.
And the fact that our exhibitions are really coming from another place. They are like systems. Do you want to speak about this?
I think this is very important because also we had many of the different types of notions or ideas that you presented earlier in the different panels, and this notion of circularity, the notion of reusing and adapting, but also the notion of taking challenges and risks and finding new ways to address the big questions that everybody needs to address in their respective disciplines, is basically what artists do constantly. And it was mentioned in many ways that art is very essential in this new kind of like ecosystemic thinking that we, and everybody here, I'm sure, tries to approach and work through. And there is no bigger risk takers than artists. And this is the most important thing that for us is really ingrained in our DNA after working for so many years with some of the world's most important artists, but also the people who are pushing the boundary in every kind of area of what they're doing. May that be technology, may that be visual art, may that be design. But more importantly is that in ARL, these people are coming together in the same space and in the same area, and they are able to debate, exchange, and work with each other. Because very often they work around the same ideas, the same technologies, the same tools, and the same areas of research, but each one of them have a different goal. So when the goals also align and connect is where we can see breakthroughs in the way that we can do things possible. One of the examples is the Atelier Luma, a research lab in natural materials from the region of Arles on the surrounding area of the wetlands, which much of the work of the Atelier Luma found itself in a prototypical stage used in the construction of our various buildings. And these are materials that directly come from natural resources. These are materials that come from industries that have been forgotten. And these are materials which we used in a contemporary way with care and tools could provide new ways of thinking the world that's around us and the way that we can produce reality through.
We use the waste, right? Also from agriculture.
Absolutely. And because we spoke about circularity earlier in the different conversations, there's a circularity also which has to be temporal circularity. We go back into time, not only because it's an old Roman city, but because it's a place where time is different. And it's interesting to think of temporality as a circular form of construction of an economy before economy was a word, because it's really like this kind of way of thinking, sometimes archaic techniques that can become far more modern and contemporary than our current moment. And like will survive the way we do things much more than the way that things are happening right now for very short usage time.
And you mentioned Atelier Luma, and I think it connects in so many ways what Atelier Luma does with the topic of this conference, because it's about circular economy, it's about the environment, it's about the way also how technology can actually be brought in to find solutions. It's about solutions. Maybe it's good to talk a little bit more about the genesis of Atelier Luma, how you invented it.
Yeah,
Maya,
maybe we should say what Atelier Luma is.
Absolutely.
Just
that's what I thought.
Not what the whole history is, because otherwise the time will be really, really short. But it is really a lab instead of being it is an invention lab. It brings in technology in order to speak about ancient things and in order to bring solutions. So at the moment where we created the Atelier Luma, we lost a little bit our gloominess, and we built hope again, which is actually currently a speech that everybody is using, but which was, in our case, 5, 6, 7 years ago, with the creation of the atelier. It just gave us really the energy to continue. We already did a lot of good work because we were open source at the beginning. We still are, but not completely, because we needed to find rules in order to make it. We are just in the process to find the rules. But we hosted a lot of young designers, and we applied their creativity to looking for solutions really in, for instance, construction materials, design, instillate beauty in things that are usual. I heard before in one of the talks that we need to show how good this can be, and not we have to do with it and then it will be okay. So one of the other examples of it, which is also part of this archipelago, is this restaurant of the Chassagnette, which is only organic, and which managed to get a Michelin star very early on, like 15 years ago, 12 years ago. So all these are good examples that allow us to take with us the people who are the most talented, because it is really a very good environment to grow ideas. It's not what we had said we would say, but
but it's an exciting dimension. Yeah. I think also, I was actually thinking again about the book, because for those of you who want to know more, there is a wonderful, sort of like A to Z, which we've been working on for many years with Maya and Vasilis and Tom Eccles at the moment of the opening. And it is A to Z. Atelier Luma, it kind of begins, A to Z begins with A, like Atelier Luma. And there one can really also see how these concrete applications happen. And maybe it's interesting for everyone to understand how it works, that you tell a little bit more about these direct applications. Because when you enter the Tower of Rangieri, you encounter these wall cladding panels. They're made out of salt. When you enter the refectory, you realize an incredible collaboration with Martino Gamper, again happening in Arles with local materials. And then, when you actually look at the renovation of the Magasin Électrique, where Assemble was leading on, again, very important experiments happened. Maybe it's interesting to talk a bit more about that, because it's very concrete.
Yeah. Absolutely. Maybe, and I can start also with another example, which is very useful. The artist Rikriti Ravanisa, whose work we're seeing also here as part of a project that happened early in the Roman arena of Arles, with whom we designed a restaurant. And Rikrit is a Thai artist who's based in New York most of the time, and he used a number of materials that have never been used before for spatial for architecture and design, particularly sunflower and rice husk for the construction of walls, but also dyes and pigments from plants and flowers from the local environment for the creation of tapestries. And this is an overall, a kind of like a really large project, which includes hospitality, but also natural materials in the highest level. And for many of the industries in which the fabricators work to produce what he has made, it was the first time that they were using these materials. So it's important that through the work of artists, we can also open new spaces in other industries to make new ways of working, and to also inject in specific areas the knowledge that there's actually value in working with artists. There can be value in working with new materials that are not yet known. And the power of the artwork making unique elements visible, it's also what is important as a cultural space, that we can be the window, that we can showcase that new things are possible. We're not bringing things only to the industry and to industry fairs, but we're bringing things which are challenging and risk-taking to the wider audience, to the wider public. And we're doing it through infrastructure of culture, which is different to the way that we can think about industry per se. I think thinking about culture is the continuous level through which that is pushing us, and Maya is pushing us all the time to think about culture constantly.
Yes.
I mean, Recruit is a good example also for, and you heard this morning, all of you, the talk of Kushongang Suetan, where co-presented the skateboard park here at the Haus der Kunst, but also the skateboard park in Arles, and that's of course a functional skateboard park, but it is also a sculpture, it's an artwork. In a similar way what Recruit does is functional, but it's also an artwork. So many of the art projects have this sort of double code. The signage of Liam Gillick is another example of that. They're little pavilions, yet it's also the signage. One thing is maybe to sort of zoom out, because there is the map where we see Arles in the bioregion. And I always remember, Maya, from the very beginning when 18 years ago you convened for the first time in Zurich, a think tank about this project, you were emphasizing the importance of it not only being about an art center, but it really connecting it to the territory, to the region, the connection to the Mediterranean, also to the research station of the Tour de Valais. Maybe it would be great to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So the research center in the Camargue is studying wetlands and has connections in the whole of the Mediterranean and also elsewhere. Yeah, the future of water, very important. I think what we were able to put in with Atelier Luma is this solution-oriented thinking instead of only doing the protection of the nature. And I would like to move a little more forward in starting to speak about the technology that we use and our new links where we can scale up or where we can potentialize all the research to date with relationships like the MIT, the accelerator, all the things that are pretty recent for us but super exciting because we now, from the regional that is important, from the local, we can radiate really on a much bigger base. And in order to do that, this working relationship with MIT is particularly important, and we already designed it to last for 10 years. So you see, we're projecting once again in the future and taking the risk of bringing this research, the results of the research, and finding new ways of making revenue with it, because up to now our center is non-profit, and we start to get so many people who want to use our products that we are going to get revenues from it to continue to invest into research, which is really very exciting for me, particularly at my age, when I think I'm soon going to leave, which I'm very happy to do because I have super co-workers and the team is terrific. But that will be quite interesting for me to prove and to show that the system is workable and that it can be exemplary for the rest of the people who invest in the same manner.
I think that's really exciting with MIT also, because we wanted to talk a little bit about these new alliances.
Yeah, and the technology and the new alliance. Maybe Vasilis can say a word too about this.
Absolutely, I think it's an important part of what we do and what we will be doing in the future. Notions of collaboration are essential in what we do, and they are key in everything, because it's only through exchange that we can move things forward. But also education is important, because in the current moment, but also for the future, the way that we educate ourselves and the ways we learn about what we need to be doing will be really shaping the future of things, shaping the way we work and the way we do things. But also, what is important is to make things exciting, to make things desirable, as also someone was saying earlier,
that's the word I was looking for.
To make sure that what we do is addressing the most important issues of today in the most radically powerful ways. Like to not be shy about what is happening and to not be shy about how we can change things. Yeah. And the MIT Luma Lab starts with the Mediterranean as the premise, building up on the work of the Atelier Luma and Luma in Arles, of everything that we have done so far. And in the future, we will continue applying the similar methods and formulas of Luma to other bioregions. This might be the Amazon, this might be the desert, this might be the poles, but these are areas where we can investigate and research further and identify the ways in which we can bring together disciplines. We can also create new art forms. This is essential. But then also we can create new ways of working, making things, using things, and then going away from the current models, which are, as were presented earlier, linear and extractivist.
Hashim Sarkis, the dean of MIT, was of the School of Design, was very much about speaking on addressing global warming. And when he came to see us, and he is also issued from the Mediterranean, he understood that being local and having so many examples and being really having hands-on with things can really help. So for me, he spoke a lot about global warming and climate crisis. I speak about biodiversity, and I can show also that we can study it. So I know that some people, like, for instance, the Ellen MacArthur, all the people I was also interested to meet throughout my life, and I can see more and more how things come together in order to create a movement, like Steffi was saying, which is also something I recently said a lot in an interview. Yeah. It's what we try to do. Hence the school, hence the education, hence the taking people with us and trying to share all this knowledge.
I think that the movement, you say, already exists. Yeah. We just need to make sure that we bring more people on it.
Yeah. That's why we hope that everybody who is here can visit AL and experience, this extraordinary institution firsthand. And it's interesting in terms of things coming together. And if we talk about technology, AI, of course, plays an important role. It plays an important role in this collaboration with the MIT lab through machine learning, which actually supports the material research. So here we can actually see that AI can really be a tool to somehow solve world problems. But of course, many of you will have seen the conversation we did here at DLD with, more recently, with Holly Herndon and Matt Dryhurst, with Rafik Anadol, about AI and about their shows during the year of AI at the Serpentine. But of course, in the program of Luma AL, there is also a very important AI dimension.
Let's speak about the
and
program.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about that. And I wanted to ask Vasilis maybe to say a few words about that, because in a way, we have, in Philippe Pareno's room, very interesting moments of AI, which is a permanent, evolving installation. The exhibition of Pierre Huy was an example. And right now, there's an artist from Singapore, Ho Zun Yen, whom I think is very interesting for the audience here.
And I think this is an important element to mention. With the Luma Foundation and with Maya, we're working extensively, and also with Hans, of course, and all our colleagues, extensively in our programs, which are quite extensive. And they're very large-scale exhibitions which try to push the boundaries of everything that we do constantly. Yeah. The work of Ho Zun Yen is a Singaporean artist this is one of the images of his work. He's working with film installation and time-based media installations, and he had finished a film. He had worked on a film that he never finished, a film that he made in 2013, that he never got to finalize the editing because it was so huge in terms of ideas and content that he could never do it on his own. So when we started talking to him about doing exhibition, he came to us and he said, by the way, I have this film that I have never finished.
It's amazing.
We said, let's finish this film. Yeah. The way he wanted to finish this film was to create unique AI tools that would allow the film to be re-edited, resequenced, and expand using the original footage that he had made in 2013. For us, in all the conversations we've had, this is the future of film. And it's something that you definitely see at some point, because the exhibition, which is now in AL, will travel at some point in different places. The work is part of the Luma Foundation's collection, so it will definitely circulate.
Such a good example, because he really said, I would not have known how to finish it. So is AI the best friend or the best tool or whatever? But let's, for the time being, before it takes over, let's just use it to the best for making the better things with it. So I know you're going to speak about all of this tomorrow. I will be gone because I have to go to AL, and I hope you will tell me a little what's going on, Hans Ulrich. So
we will. We have Alvaro Barrington here.
Yeah, Alvaro,
we should
who
give him a
also was
warm
in our-
welcome to Alvaro Barrington.
Is he coming now?
No, he's going to come tomorrow.
Okay.
So we hope you can all join the
maybe
next.
if I can
There's a
say-
last question, I think, but you wanted to say something more
Alvaro
about
was a
AI?
resident in
about the
our.
AI.
Yeah.
Alvaro
Yeah.
was with us for some
Yeah.
time, which is great. One thing about the work of Holzer
Yeah.
Yen, which is important, it plays an important role also in the conversation about AI. From the beginning and also through the many years of defining what we do and the insistence of my years to ethical and moral connection to
Yeah.
technology and to human rights. And the AI tools that were generated to finalize and to edit the film took into consideration, possibly for the first time in such a scale and in such a type of work, racial characteristics of characters and figures who are playing in the film, whose images have been generated by AI, but also natural conditions of places and spaces that have been generated through AI components, meaning that forests that have been generated during the AI process remained truthful to the forests that were the original images where they coming from. The AI at the moment has the tendency of uniforming everything, but we were clear on the fact that we have to keep the
Here is the
ethical
guy.
position of what AI can do for the sake of an artwork, which is predominant in.
And the good
You're
news
right.
is
Yeah.
the show
This
is
is
still
good news.
there, and you can all visit it. And I've actually, we're almost out of time, but I have a last question
Yeah.
for Maya. We wanted to talk about archives, because obviously this whole
Yes.
talk today was about the future.
Yeah.
It's about the production of future reality, about testing prototypes for future reality. But in a way, often, as we all know, the future is also invented with fragments from the past. Now, it's very interesting, Maya, that you from the very beginning, in that very first meeting 18 years ago, you insisted on archives and the concept of living archives. To quote you, you said that there's a desire to open up a space that would be accessible to all by emphasizing beyond the traditional forms of knowledge the current notions of feeling and experience. So to make a contribution to the tradition of archives by incorporating it in a more organic way. And of course, we collaborate every year on an exhibition of my archive, but you have multiple archive projects in AL. And I thought it would be nice to end this talk with you telling a little bit about these archive dimensions.
I have to tell. No, I thought I would ask you the question about the archives. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the future is built from fragments of the past, partly. There is also some other things coming into consideration. Yeah, I agree. It's important. I'm not a true collector. Although I have some works by Alvaro. But I am interested in keeping the archive of what happened, and that can be reserve and for building future exhibitions. It's very important. Work with Hans Ulrich has been really very rewarding. We have other things that we did not really announce, but that can help us to develop our ideas, and this is also really fascinating. I feel a little stressed because of time, and I have promised, so I don't know how you want to finish that, Hans Ulrich. What did you want to know about the archive? It's okay.
I think we have
a minute or two, no? Yes, Mark is nodding.
So archive,
you
I'm not
have the
going
living
to,
archives, no?
Yeah, it's the living archive. So we just work with the person who created the archive or with the artist himself and his archive. And we continue to draw exhibitions out of it, to draw discussions, I mean, everybody can have this idea. I think it's pretty random idea, but when it becomes interesting is if you really do it instead of speaking about it.
And in the context as well,
in the
because
context
it enters a
of
context where
it
there's a lot of other things happening,
Yeah.
and the archive becomes generative.
Yeah.
Every time the archive opens, it's a component that goes multiplies into every other area of things that we do.
What is really interesting in our programs, and it's maybe the second year that they are so extensive, is that you can bounce from one exhibition to the other, and it really creates a whole. We are far from the archipelago. Actually, we are really in the living system of exhibitions that keep feeding each other's, and for the viewer who thinks he can come and only stay half an hour to see the exhibition, it's just not possible. I hope he will be wanting to come back several times. I would prefer him to see, him or her to see one exhibition at a time and understand the next day how it connects with the rest of the program. I find it quite important.
And of course, you can all still see these exhibitions. There's a very strong archive presence. Actually, many of the shows for my archive, there's an artist who is very deeply connected to Munich, the late Austrian artist Maria Lasnik, who did a lot here in Munich over the years, and there's all my interviews with her and letters and correspondence and an exhibition of her paintings. There is David Armstrong, very interesting how an artist, Wade Guyton, actually installed next to his studio the archive of a late photographer he loved, whose work he adores, and he devotes a lot of time and even hired staff to just basically create a memory to protest against the oblivion or the forgetting of these artists. I would say Peter Fischli has to do with archives because you can actually walk literally on his archive. So I think you should all come to Arles. It's urgent, and thank you so much, Maya. Thank you, Vasilis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hans.